Babine-Witsuwit'en language. Babine-Witsuwit'en or Nadot'en-Wets'uwet'en is an Athabaskan language spoken in the central interior of British Columbia. Its closest relative is Carrier. Because of this linguistic relationship together with political and cultural ties, Babine-Witsuwit'en is often referred to as Northern Carrier or Western Carrier. Specialist opinion is, however, that it should be considered a separate, though related, language. Kari 1975, Story 1984, Kari and Hargus 1989. A term used briefly in the 1990s is Bulkley Valley Lakes District language, abbreviated Boulevard. Ethnologue uses the bare name Babine for the language as a whole, not just for the Babine dialect. As its name suggests, Babine-Witsuwit'en consists of two main dialects. Babine/Nedut'en spoken by the Babine-Nadot'en around Babine Lake, Trembleur Lake and Takla Lake, and Witsuwit'en spoken by the Wet'suwet'en people of the Wet'suwet'en/Wadizunqua River, i.e. Bulkley River, literally, people of the Blue and Green River in the Bulkley Valley, around Broman Lake, and in the vicinity of Skins Lake. The two dialects are very similar and are distinguished primarily by the fact that in Babine but not in Witsuwit'en the Athabaskan front velar series have become palatal affricates. Like most languages native to British Columbia, Babine-Witsuwit'en is an endangered language. It is spoken by a minority of the population, primarily elders. There are 161 fluent and 159 partial speakers of the Babine dialect and 131 fluent and 61 partial speakers of the Witsuwit'en dialect. At most, a handful of children are still speaking the language. Classification. Babine-Witsuwit'en is classified as Northern Athabaskan, in the same linguistic subgrouping as Takla and Chilcotin, though the latter is far more distinctly separate from Babine-Witsuwit'en. Several non-specialist sources, the First Peoples Heritage Language and Culture Council, the British Columbia Ministry of Education, and the University of British Columbia Museum of Anthropology classify Witsuwit'en as one language and Babine as a distinct language, either on its own or together with Carrier proper under the name Takla. Experts on the languages reject this classification. All agree that the differences between Babine and Witsuwit'en are small and that the major split is between Babine and Witsuwit'en on the one hand and Carrier proper on the other hand. The distinction is because speakers of Babine and of Carrier proper call themselves and their language Takla, but that speakers of Witsuwit'en do not. Phonology. Consonants. Witsuwit'en has 35 consonants. Aspirated and ejective labials are rarer than other consonants. Vowels. Witsuwit'en has 6 underlying vowels in its inventory. Grammar. Lexical categories. Witsuwit'en lexical categories include nouns, verbs, adjectives, and postpositions. Directional terms are considered to be a lexical group in Witsuwit'en found throughout lexical categories. Nouns. Witsuwit'en nouns are only inflected for possession, and no case marking exists in Witsuwit'en. Possessive morphology takes different forms depending on whether the referent is alienable or inalienable. Because trap bait is an alienable entity which need not be possessed by anyone/anything, it does not include any possessive morphology, stands alone in its bare form. In contrast, brother is an inalienable entity. A brother cannot exist without someone else to be in relation to. Thus, brother requires possessive morphology, as exampled in S at Eltsen, my brother. Verbs. The basic lexical verb in Witsuwit'en is the verb theme, a unit composed of 2 parts, a verbal root, and required thematic prefixes. Verbal morpheme order is stable throughout the Athabaskan family. Thus, the template of the Witsuwit'en verb is very similar to other Athabaskan languages. Prefixes which are furthest away from the lexical stem display more variability. The Witsuwit'en verb consists of a lexical root and an aspectual, hence, or modal affix, most often a suffix. All Witsuwit'en verbs carry tense and subject inflection. Postpositions. Postpositional object marking is demonstrated in the examples below. Postpositions can stand by themselves, as in the example "Threes was playing with it," or attached to the verbal complex. Elh with threes plays. Threes was playing with it. Directional terms. Complex directional systems and directional terms have been described in Atna, Slavey, Kaska, Koyukin, Sekin, and Witsuwit'en. Directional terms are composed of a directional root, prefixes which describe distance, and suffixes which indicate motion or rest. Syntax. Like most Athabaskan languages, basic word order in Babine-Witsuwit'en is subject-object-verb SOV. Mary Dilthson Yikinsi. Mary 3. SG. Reffel. Brother 3. SG. Loves. 3. SG. Mary loves her own brother. Grammatical relations. Babine-Witsuwit'en uses verbal morphology to express grammatical roles. Subjects of transitive and intransitive constructions are marked in the same way and appear in identical positions within the sentence, while objects of transitive constructions may differ in position and occasionally in morphological form. Subjects are marked in different places within the verbal complex, with first and second person subjects appearing more closely to the verb stem and third person subjects, and direct objects further to the left. Two object prefixes he and y. He it solde. They need it. Induta Jesus. What 3s? He fs. Is. Drinking. It. What's he drinking? First and second person subjects include one SG, two SG, and two PL. Third person subjects can be expressed as unspecified human, indefinite, or fourth person referred to as the obviative in Algonquian languages. Voice/Valence. Athabaskan languages like Babine-Witsuwit'en make use of two main argument transferring morphemes known as classifiers. However, the term classifier is recognized among Athabaskanists as a misnomer. Voice and valence markers are more appropriate descriptors. Each lexical entry of Witsuwit'en verbs features a lexicalized voice/valence marker fused with the verb stem. The classifiers L and D regulate transitivity. L increases transitivity by creating causatives, and the D classifier lowers transitivity to create middle voice. The valence marker L is more complex in nature, indicating a combination of L and D where a middle is built upon a causative. Words and phrases. Source: First Voices.